I thought Christmas morning would bring the financial miracle I desperately needed. Sitting in my tiny apartment kitchen at 6 a.m., still in my pajamas, I opened my work email expecting to see the promised year-end bonus that would save my family's holiday. Instead, I stared at my payroll statement salary listed deductions, calculated bonus line showing a devastating 0. My phone buzzed with a text from my manager, Sarah, "Don't ruin today." That's when I understood this wasn't a mistake, it was calculated cruelty designed to destroy my Christmas spirit completely. The coffee mug slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering against the linoleum floor like my carefully constructed hopes. Steam rose from the brown puddle as reality crashed down around me. I am Chandra Williams, 32 years old, and for the past 3 years, I had poured my soul into Thompson & Associates, the mid-sized advertising agency that promised so much and delivered so little. My daughter Emma stirred in the bedroom down the hall, and panic seized my chest. She would wake up expecting Christmas magic, but I had exactly $43 in my checking account and a credit card that maxed out last month paying for groceries. The rent notice on my refrigerator demanded $2,400 by January 1st, just 1 week away. My mother's medical bills from her recent gallbladder surgery sat in a stack on the counter totaling nearly $6,000 after insurance denials. 6 months ago, my manager, Sarah Patterson, had looked me straight in the eye during my performance review and promised an $8,000 year-end bonus. She praised my exceptional work on the Henderson Hotels campaign, the breakthrough strategy that brought in their biggest client renewal in company history. I had worked 60-hour weeks, missed Emma's school plays, turned down dates, and sacrificed every personal relationship to prove my worth. "You're exactly what this company needs," Sarah had said, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her designer suit impeccable. "Dedicated professionals like you deserve recognition." The irony tasted bitter as I swept up coffee mug fragments with shaking hands. Recognition. I had trained my own replacement when Sarah told me I was being considered for a senior marketing position. Spent weeks teaching Ashley everything I knew about client management, campaign development, and budget allocation. The promotion never materialized, but Ashley sure seemed comfortable in what should have been my role. My phone rang, Sarah's name appearing on the screen like a curse. I answered with forced calm. "Dra, I hope you're not upset about the bonus situation." Her voice carried that fake sweetness I had grown to despise. "There were budget constraints this year, you understand." Through my apartment window, I could see fresh snow covering the parking lot of our modest complex. Sarah's Instagram stories from the past week showed her skiing in Aspen designer sunglasses reflecting mountain peaks, expensive champagne glasses raised in celebration. "Budget constraints," I repeated slowly. "While you're vacationing in Colorado. My personal life isn't relevant to business decisions." She snapped, the mask slipping. "I suggest you focus on the upcoming year instead of dwelling on disappointments." I ended the call and sat in my kitchen chair, staring at Emma's wish list stuck to the refrigerator with alphabet magnets. Her 8-year-old handwriting listed exactly 6 items: new art supplies, a book series about dragons, winter boots because hers had holes, a stuffed animal to replace the one she lost at school, a board game we could play together, and at the bottom, underlined twice, for Mommy to be happy again. The total cost of everything on her list was exactly $200, money I didn't have. Mrs. Rodriguez from apartment 2B knocked on my door holding a plate of fresh tamales. Her weathered hands and kind eyes took in my tear-stained face and pajamas. "Mija, I made too many again," she said, though we both knew she made them specifically for us. "Emma loves the cheese ones." The gesture of kindness broke something inside me. Mrs. Rodriguez shouldn't have to worry about feeding my daughter. I should be able to provide Christmas morning without depending on neighbors' charity. After she left, I opened my laptop and began searching through old emails, looking for documentation of Sarah's bonus promise. What I found made my blood run cold. Buried in my spam folder was a forwarded message dated 2 weeks ago. The sender was Marcus Thompson, a colleague in the creative department. The subject line read, "You should know about this." The forwarded email was from Sarah to the executive team. Regarding Chandra Williams' termination recommendation, she has become expendable deadweight. Her contributions have been minimal this quarter, and I believe we can redistribute her responsibilities more efficiently. I recommend we eliminate her position effective January 15th to start the new year with a leaner team structure. My hands shook as I read the timestamp. December 10th. 3 days after she looked me in the eye and wished me happy holidays, Sarah had recommended my termination. She had never intended to pay the bonus. She had planned to fire me all along. Emma's bedroom door creaked open and her sleepy voice called out, "Mommy, is it Christmas morning yet?" I closed the laptop and painted on a smile that felt like broken glass. "Not quite yet, sweetheart. Go back to sleep for a little while." But I knew sleep wouldn't come for me. The foundation of everything I believed about fairness, hard work, and honesty had just crumbled to dust. And somehow, I had to figure out how to rebuild it before Emma woke up expecting Christmas magic. By 7 a.m., I had dressed in my best professional attire and driven to the office building knowing Marcus would be there early, preparing for the Henderson Hotel's presentation scheduled for the day after Christmas. The security guard Tony waved me through with a confused expression. "Thought you folks were off until next week," he said, adjusting his uniform cap. "Special project," I replied, my heart hammering against my ribs. I found Marcus in the break room brewing coffee with the intensity of a chemist. His nervous energy always manifested in excessive caffeine consumption and fidgeting with his wire-rimmed glasses. When he saw me, his face went pale. "Chandra, I thought you were spending Christmas with Emma," he stammered, nearly dropping his mug. "I need to know about that email you forwarded," I said directly. "Everything." Marcus glanced around the empty office, then motioned for me to follow him to his cubicle. His workspace was organized chaos, creative briefs, design mock-ups, and 3 different coffee cups in various stages of emptiness. "I shouldn't have sent that," he whispered, pulling up files on his computer. "But what Sarah's doing isn't right. She's been taking credit for your work since you started here." He opened a folder marked Henderson Campaign Original. My breath caught. Every strategy document, every creative brief, every client proposal bore my name as the original creator. But the versions that went to management had Sarah's name listed as primary contributor. "The Regional Advertising Award last month," Marcus continued, his voice dropping even lower. "The one Sarah accepted at the ceremony, that was entirely your campaign design. I have the original files with timestamps proving you developed everything." He showed me email threads where Sarah had copied my client relationship strategies word for word, presenting them as her own innovations. Screenshots of presentations where my research and market analysis appeared under her authorship. Even my approach to the difficult Henderson account renewal had been plagiarized and submitted as Sarah's breakthrough thinking. "She earned a $15,000 bonus and promotion to regional director using your work," Marcus revealed, adjusting his glasses nervously. "The executives think she's some kind of marketing genius." The betrayal cut deeper than financial loss. Every late night, every sacrificed weekend, every moment I chose work over time with Emma had been feeding Sarah's career advancement. She had systematically stolen not just my ideas, but my professional identity. "There's more," Marcus said reluctantly. "I've seen your performance reviews. The official ones Sarah submits mark you as needs improvement in areas where you excel, but I've witnessed the client meetings. The Henderson team specifically requests you for all their projects." My phone buzzed with the text from Emma. "Mommy, when are you coming home? I want to open presents." The contrast between my daughter's innocent excitement and the corporate betrayal surrounding me felt surreal. I was fighting for our survival while she waited for Christmas magic. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked Marcus. He removed his glasses, cleaning them with unnecessary focus. I was afraid of losing my job. Sarah has connections I don't understand. She seems untouchable here. That phrase struck me oddly. Connections. Sarah had been promoted rapidly despite minimal experience. Her corner office, her flexible schedule, her apparent immunity from accountability. At company gatherings, I had noticed her easy familiarity with David Thompson, the company president. They shared inside jokes, extended conversations, and a comfort level that seemed unusual for a professional relationship. Marcus, have you ever noticed anything unusual about Sarah's relationship with David Thompson? His eyes widened behind his freshly cleaned glasses. You mean the way they disappear for strategy sessions that last 3 hours, or how she knows details about his personal schedule that aren't in the company calendar? A sick realization began forming in my stomach. Sarah's rapid advancement, her protected status, her confidence in making unethical decisions. The pieces fit together with horrifying clarity. I spent another hour with Marcus copying files and documenting the evidence of stolen work. The pattern was extensive and deliberate. Sarah had built her entire career at Thompson and Associates on plagiarized ideas and fraudulent performance metrics. As I drove home, Emma called again. Mommy, Mrs. Rodriguez brought us breakfast, but I want to wait for you to open presents. I'm coming home now, sweetheart, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But I knew that before I could give Emma the Christmas she deserved, I would have to confront the woman who had stolen not just my bonus, but my professional reputation and financial security. The evidence was damning, but Sarah's protections seemed to run deeper than normal workplace politics. When I walked into our apartment, Emma ran to me wearing the red pajamas that were too small but still her favorites. Her gap-toothed smile and excited energy reminded me why this fight mattered. She deserved a mother who wouldn't accept injustice even when fighting back seemed impossible. That afternoon, as Emma played with the modest gifts I managed to buy with my last $40, I made a decision. Sarah Patterson had underestimated me. She thought she could destroy my career and Christmas without consequences. She was about to learn otherwise. Christmas Day unfolded like a slow-motion tragedy. Emma's face when she opened her 3 small presents broke my heart into jagged pieces. She smiled brightly and thanked me with genuine enthusiasm, but I saw her glancing toward the door, hoping perhaps Santa had made a mistake and would return with more packages. "These are perfect, Mommy," she said, hugging the small stuffed unicorn I found at the dollar store. "I love them so much." Her gracious response to such modest gifts made my chest ache with guilt and rage. An 8-year-old shouldn't have to be grateful for so little while the person responsible for our poverty celebrated lavishly 3 states away. Mrs. Rodriguez invited us for Christmas dinner. Her tiny apartment filled with extended family laughter and the aroma of traditional Mexican dishes. Emma played with cousins while the adults shared stories in Spanish and English. Their kindness wrapped around us like a warm blanket, but it also highlighted how isolated we had become. When did I become the charity case in our building? At 4 p.m., Mr. Garcia knocked on our door. Our landlord, usually wearing work clothes and smelling of paint, had dressed up for Christmas in a pressed shirt and uncomfortable-looking shoes. His expression was apologetic but determined. "Miss Williams, I'm sorry to do this on Christmas, but I can't wait any longer." He handed me an official notice with the county seal. 30 days to pay the full balance or vacate the premises. $2,400. Due by January 24th. Emma looked up from her unicorn confusion clouding her bright brown eyes. "What's that paper, Mommy?" "Just grown-up stuff, sweetheart." I managed folding the notice quickly. After Mr. Garcia left, I stepped into the bathroom and allowed myself exactly 2 minutes of silent tears. When I emerged, Emma was arranging her 3 presents on the coffee table like they were precious treasures. My phone rang. "Mom, how's my granddaughter enjoying Christmas?" she asked, her voice weak but attempting cheerfulness. I could hear the hospital sounds in the background, the beeping monitors and distant conversations that had become her soundtrack since the surgery. The insurance company had denied coverage for her follow-up treatment, claiming the procedure was non-essential. $3,000 was needed immediately to prevent complications from developing. "She's wonderful, Mom. How are you feeling?" "Much better," she lied. We had become experts at lying to protect each other. "The nurses here are taking good care of me." After hanging up, I applied for emergency assistance programs online. Every application required documentation references and waiting periods of 3 to 6 weeks. Help would come too late to save our home or my mother's health. Emma curled up beside me on the couch, her head resting against my shoulder as we watched a Christmas movie on our old television. During commercial breaks, she talked about going back to school after winter break, seeing her friends continuing her art class. "Jenny said her family might move to a bigger house," Emma mentioned casually. "Are we going to move too?" The innocent question cut through me like a blade. How could I explain that our move wouldn't be to somewhere better, but to wherever we could afford with no money and bad credit? That evening, after Emma fell asleep, I searched for job opportunities. Every position in advertising required references from current supervisors. Sarah controlled my professional reputation. Even if I found another job, she could sabotage my prospects with a single phone call. I checked Sarah's Instagram again, a form of self-torture I couldn't resist. Her Christmas posts showed a ski lodge dinner with David Thompson's family. She wore jewelry I had never seen before, expensive pieces that sparkled under restaurant lighting. David's wife and children were tagged in the photos, making their social connection appear family-friendly and innocent. But I remembered Marcus's words about their unusual closeness, their long private meetings, her knowledge of his personal schedule. The expensive jewelry suggested financial benefits beyond her salary grade. My laptop chimed with an email notification. Jennifer Walsh, a former colleague who had left Thompson & Associates 6 months ago. The subject line read, "Saw your name in the news archives." "Hi, Chandra," she wrote. I was researching something for my new job and found an article about the Henderson Hotels Campaign Award. Sarah accepted recognition for work that looked familiar to me. I still have files from when we collaborated on preliminary research for that account. If you ever want to talk about the real story behind that campaign, call me. What happened to me might interest you too. Jennifer had been a rising star before her sudden departure. Sarah had announced that Jennifer couldn't handle the pressure of client demands, but her leaving had seemed abrupt and unexplained. I called Jennifer immediately. "I was wondering when you'd reach out," she said without preamble. "Sarah Patterson destroyed my career here just like she's destroying yours." Jennifer's story was sickeningly familiar. Stolen work, false performance reviews, engineered termination. But she had additional information that made my stomach drop. "She's been accessing employee computers after hours," Jennifer explained, "using David Thompson's executive passwords to delete original files and plant evidence of poor performance. I caught her in the office at midnight, logged into my workstation." "How do you know about David's passwords?" Jennifer's bitter laugh carried through the phone. "Because he gave them to her personally. They're having an affair, Chandra. It's been going on for over a year. David's wife has no idea, and Sarah uses the relationship to eliminate anyone who threatens her position." The pieces clicked into place with terrifying clarity. Sarah's rapid promotion, her immunity from consequences, her confident cruelty. She wasn't just stealing work. She was systematically destroying careers to protect her secret relationship with the company president. "Jennifer, why didn't you fight back?" I tried, but who would believe me over the president's girlfriend? I took severance and left quietly. It was easier than destroying my reputation in a battle I couldn't win. After we hung up, I checked my email once more. A message from the office IT department sent automatically at midnight. "Unusual access detected on your workstation. Password reset required for security purposes." Sarah was already moving to frame me just as she had Jennifer. The corporate machinery was in motion to destroy not just my current position, but any future prospects in the industry. I looked at Emma sleeping peacefully in her bedroom, her unicorn tucked under her arm. Tomorrow she would return to school and tell her friends about Christmas. I could give her the truth about our situation, or I could find a way to fight back before everything collapsed completely. The choice was clear. Sarah Patterson had picked the wrong mother to destroy. New Year's Eve arrived with unseasonable warmth, melting the Christmas snow into gray slush that matched my mood. While families across America prepared for celebrations, I sat in my car outside Thompson & Associates waiting for Tony to finish his rounds. The building stood dark except for security lighting and the occasional glow from offices where workaholics caught up on projects. Tony emerged from the side entrance, his breath visible in the cold air as he checked locks and tested door handles. "Miss Williams." He seemed surprised to see me. "Thought everyone was partying tonight." "I left some important files upstairs," I said, holding up my building access card. "Just need 15 minutes. Tony was a kind man in his 50s, recently divorced, working security to pay child support for twins he saw on weekends. We had shared coffee conversations during my many late nights at the office. "Shouldn't be anyone else here tonight," he said, unlocking the main entrance. "Take your time." The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like ascending into enemy territory. Sarah's corner office sat at the end of the hallway, her nameplate gleaming under fluorescent lights. David Thompson's executive suite occupied the floor above, accessible only with special keycard access. I began in Sarah's office, searching through desk drawers and filing cabinets with methodical precision. Her computer required a password, but I remembered her mentioning her cat's name during a company lunch months ago. Duchess 123 opened her desktop immediately. What I found exceeded my worst expectations. A hidden folder labeled Personnel Management contained files on every female employee who had been terminated over the past 2 years. Jennifer's folder included detailed notes about elimination strategies and reputation management. My own folder was already created with a timeline showing planned termination for January 15th. But the most damaging evidence was in a subfolder marked DT Communications. Email threads between Sarah and David Thompson revealed not just their affair, but systematic embezzlement of employee bonuses. They had diverted over $200,000 intended for terminated workers into personal accounts. "The Williams situation needs careful handling," David had written in November. "Her work quality makes termination difficult to justify. Recommend financial pressure through bonus elimination to force resignation." Sarah's response was chilling. "Already implemented. She has family obligations that make unemployment impossible. She'll leave quietly to avoid damaging references. They had planned my financial destruction with calculated precision. The stolen bonus wasn't just corporate greed, it was psychological warfare designed to break my spirit and force submission. I photographed every document with my phone, then copied files to an encrypted flash drive. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed more concrete proof of their criminal activity. Security footage logs showed Sarah and David entering the building together on 17 different occasions after normal business hours. Their strategy meetings were documented evidence of their personal relationship and after-hours access to employee data. The most horrifying discovery was in Sarah's insurance folder. She had been preparing to frame me for stealing client data with fabricated evidence ready to be discovered when I returned from winter break. Fake emails showing unauthorized access to Henderson Hotel's confidential information were scheduled to appear in my sent folder on January 2nd. My phone buzzed with the text from Emma, staying overnight with Mrs. Rodriguez. "Happy New Year, Mommy, I love you." Her message strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about recovering stolen money. It was about protecting my daughter's future from people who would destroy families for personal gain. I moved to David Thompson's office using the executive access codes I had memorized from Sarah's files. His computer contained financial records showing the embezzled bonuses had been used for luxury purchases, Sarah's jewelry, their vacation expenses, even payments for a private apartment where they conducted their affair. Bank statements revealed a pattern of transfers on dates corresponding to employee terminations. Each fired worker's bonus had been redirected to accounts controlled by David and Sarah. They had turned employee elimination into a profitable side business. The scope of their criminal enterprise was staggering. Fraud, embezzlement, evidence tampering, and conspiracy charges would be appropriate. But I needed legal guidance to ensure the evidence would be admissible and actionable. Tony's voice echoed through the building intercom. "Security check in 30 minutes. I finished copying files and carefully replaced everything in its original position. Sarah and David believed themselves untouchable, protected by their positions and their carefully maintained secret. They had no idea their victim had gathered enough evidence to destroy both their careers and their freedom. As I drove home through empty streets, fireworks exploded over the city, celebrating new beginnings. For me, this new year would bring justice for every woman they had betrayed, every family they had damaged, every career they had destroyed for profit. Emma deserved to see that sometimes when powerful people abuse their positions, ordinary citizens can fight back and win. The battle ahead would be dangerous and difficult, but the alternative was allowing them to continue destroying lives without consequences. Sarah Patterson and David Thompson had made their last mistake when they targeted my family. Tomorrow, their carefully constructed web of deception would begin unraveling in ways they never imagined possible. January 2nd arrived gray and bitter with wind that cut through my heaviest coat as I walked into Thompson & Associates 45 minutes before normal business hours. The building felt different now that I understood its hidden corruption. Every polished surface and professional decoration represented stolen money and destroyed careers. Tony was finishing his night shift looking tired but alert. "Early start today, Miss Williams." "Big presentation," I replied, which wasn't entirely false. I settled at my desk, appearing to review campaign materials, while actually waiting for the trap Sarah had set to spring. At exactly 8:30 a.m., Kevin Morrison from IT appeared with his tablet and toolkit. "Sorry to bother you, Chandra, but we detected some irregular activity on your workstation over the holiday. Need to run a security scan." I activated the voice recording app on my phone, tucked discreetly in my blazer pocket. "Of course. What kind of irregular activity?" Kevin's uncomfortable expression told me everything. "Unauthorized access to client databases. Henderson hotels specifically. The timestamps show access during your vacation days." "That's impossible," I said with genuine confusion. "I was home with my daughter. You can check with building security." "We have to follow protocol," Kevin mumbled, clearly uncomfortable with his assigned role. "I'm sure it's just a computer glitch." Sarah arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, her heels clicking across the marble lobby with predatory confidence. She wore a new designer coat and carried a handbag that cost more than my monthly rent. Her smile was perfectly calculated as she approached my cubicle. "I hope you had a restful holiday," she said loud enough for nearby colleagues to hear. "Ready to start the new year with a fresh perspective." "Absolutely," I replied, meeting her gaze directly. "I've gained some fascinating perspectives recently." Kevin's scan predictably discovered the planted evidence. Fabricated emails showing unauthorized downloads of Henderson Hotel's client data appeared in my sent folder, complete with timestamps during my vacation days. "This is serious," Sarah said with theatrical concern. "Industrial espionage is a federal crime." She was performing for witnesses, establishing her role as the responsible manager, discovering employee misconduct. But I had prepared for this moment. "That is serious," I agreed. especially since I have photographic evidence of you planting this fake data using David Thompson's executive access codes. Sarah's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the blood draining from her face. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing her the photographs I had taken of the fabricated emails in her computer, complete with creation timestamps from December 31st. I'm talking about evidence tampering, Sarah, along with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy charges. The cubicle area had gone silent. Kevin stood frozen with his tablet, unsure whether to continue his assigned role. Other employees pretended to work while listening to every word. Sarah grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my sleeve. We need to discuss this privately. Actually, I think we should include David in this conversation, I said, removing her hand firmly. After all, he's your business partner in this scheme. Sarah's eyes darted around the office, calculating escape routes and damage control options. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I know exactly what I'm dealing with, I replied calmly. I have 2 years of documentation showing how you've stolen work, embezzled bonuses, and destroyed careers. Jennifer Walsh sends her regards, by the way. At Jennifer's name, Sarah's composure cracked completely. She whispered urgently, What do you want? Full restitution for every employee you've defrauded. Public acknowledgement of the stolen work, your resignation, and David's. Sarah's laugh was sharp and desperate. You think you can threaten us? You have no power here. Actually, I have something better than power. I have evidence. David Thompson appeared at that moment, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expensive suit tailored to perfection. At 58, he carried himself with the arrogance of someone who had never faced real consequences. Is there a problem here? He asked, his tone suggesting I was the source of any disturbance. David, I said pleasantly, I was just showing Sarah the photographs I took of your office computer on New Year's Eve. The bank records were particularly interesting. His authoritative demeanor wavered. You accessed my office illegally. Actually, I used the access codes Sarah provided, the ones you gave her for your after-hours meetings. Tony can verify the security logs. The three of us stood in a tense triangle while the entire office pretended not to eavesdrop. Sarah and David exchanged glances filled with panic and accusation. What exactly do you think you can prove? David demanded. I showed them both my phone, scrolling through photographs of their incriminating emails, financial records, and evidence of their systematic fraud. Their faces grew paler with each image. I can prove you've embezzled over $200,000 in employee bonuses, I said quietly. I can prove Sarah has been stealing work and destroying careers for 2 years, and I can prove you've been using your executive position to cover up crimes. Sarah stepped closer, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. You have a little girl, don't you? Chandra. Emma, 2nd grade at Riverside Elementary, gets dropped off at 7:45 every morning by Mrs. Rodriguez. The threat against my daughter sent ice through my veins, but it also confirmed their desperation. They had revealed how closely they had been watching my family, and they had made their greatest mistake. Are you threatening my daughter? I asked, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent office. David immediately recognized Sarah's error. Of course not. Sarah's just concerned about— I recorded that threat, I interrupted, holding up my phone. Along with everything else you've both said this morning. The recording would document their confession, their attempted intimidation, and their knowledge of my daughter's school schedule. Criminal attorneys would find it fascinating evidence. Look, David said with forced calm. I'm sure we can reach an understanding. Perhaps there was a miscommunication about your bonus. Maybe we can. Maybe you can offer full restitution, public apologies, and immediate resignations, I said. Or maybe you can explain everything to federal investigators. Sarah was shaking now, her carefully constructed image crumbling visibly. You don't understand the consequences of what you're doing. I understand perfectly, I replied. I'm stopping 2 criminals from destroying more families. My phone rang at that moment. Emma's school. My heart stopped. Miss Williams. This is Principal Foster at Riverside Elementary. Emma is fine, but we had an unusual incident this morning. A woman claiming to be from your workplace came to the school asking about Emma's schedule. We followed protocol and didn't release any information, but I thought you should know. I looked directly at Sarah as I answered. Thank you for calling immediately, Principal Foster. I'll be there in 20 minutes to discuss security measures. David grabbed Sarah's elbow as I hung up. What did you do? He hissed. The entire office was watching now, no longer pretending to work. Kevin from IT stood with his mouth open. Marcus had emerged from his cubicle, his face pale with concern. Did you just send someone to my daughter's school? I asked Sarah. Her silence was answer enough. The threat against Emma had moved beyond words to action. They had crossed a line that transformed this from corporate fraud into something much more serious. That was your last mistake, I said quietly. I gathered my belongings while Sarah and David stood frozen, realizing their position had become hopeless. They had evidence of embezzlement fraud and now attempted intimidation of a witness's child. As I walked toward the elevator, I heard David desperately trying to control the damage. Everyone needs to get back to work. This is a personnel matter. But it was too late for damage control. They had committed their crimes in front of witnesses, threatened a child, and revealed the desperation of people who knew their careers and freedom were about to end. I had work to do. Phone calls to attorneys, meetings with FBI agents, and most importantly, protecting my daughter from people who had proven they would target children to protect their secrets. Sarah Patterson and David Thompson had finally met someone who wouldn't be intimidated, bought off, or silenced. Their reign of terror was about to end in the most public and devastating way possible. Rebecca Walsh's law office occupied the 15th floor of a downtown building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. At 42, she had built her reputation on employment law cases that exposed corporate corruption. Her steel gray hair was pulled back severely, and her handshake conveyed both competence and determination. Your case is extraordinary, she said after reviewing my evidence for 2 hours. The scope of their criminal activity extends far beyond typical workplace fraud. I had driven directly from Emma's school to Rebecca's office, my daughter safely secured with additional pickup protocols and security measures. Principal Foster had been disturbed by the attempt to gather information about Emma and immediately implemented protective procedures. What are we looking at legally? I asked. Federal charges? Rebecca replied without hesitation. Mail fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, evidence tampering, and witness intimidation. The threat against your daughter makes this particularly serious. She opened her laptop and began outlining our strategy. We'll file criminal complaints with the FBI and civil lawsuits for damages. The recordings you obtained will be crucial evidence, especially the threats against Emma. How long will this take? With evidence this comprehensive, faster than you might expect. The financial records alone prove systematic embezzlement. Their confession on your recording eliminates most defense options. Rebecca's assistant brought in coffee as we discussed protective measures for Emma and me. Restraining orders, security consultations, and safe housing options if threats escalated. There's something else, Rebecca said, her expression growing more serious. I've been investigating similar patterns at other advertising agencies. Thompson and Associates might not be an isolated case. She showed me files from 3 other companies where female employees had been terminated under suspicious circumstances, their bonuses redirected to management accounts. Sarah Patterson worked at 2 of these agencies before Thompson. The pattern suggests this is her established method of operation. The realization that Sarah was a serial predator who moved between companies destroying careers made my stomach sick. How many women had lost their jobs, their financial security, their professional reputations to feed her criminal enterprise? We need to contact other victims, I said. They deserve justice too. Rebecca smiled grimly. Already in progress. Jennifer Walsh is coordinating with former employees from multiple companies. This could become a class action lawsuit. While Rebecca prepared legal filings, I drove to Riverside Elementary for Emma's pickup. She bounded out of school with her usual energy, her backpack bouncing against her winter coat. "How was your day, sweetheart?" "Good. We learned about Martin Luther King in social studies. Mrs. Patterson said he stood up to unfair people even when it was scary." The name Patterson made me flinch, but Emma's lesson about courage felt like a sign. Standing up to unfair people even when it was scary. Exactly what I was doing. That evening, my phone rang with an unknown number. The caller ID showed a local prefix. "Miss Williams, this is Margaret Thompson, David Thompson's wife." My breath caught. "I found your number in David's phone," she continued, her voice strained with emotion. "We need to talk." We arranged to meet at a coffee shop across town, away from anywhere David or Sarah might see us. Margaret Thompson arrived first, a well-dressed woman in her mid-50s with prematurely gray hair and tired eyes. "I know about the affair," she said without preamble. "I've known for months." She pulled out a folder containing bank statements, credit card bills, and photographs. Evidence of David's relationship with Sarah, their shared expenses and financial irregularities, Margaret had been investigating independently. "I'm the daughter of the majority shareholder in Thompson and Associates," she explained. "My father built that company. David married into ownership, but the voting control stays with my family." Margaret's discoveries paralleled my evidence, but from the financial side. She had traced money transfers, identified suspicious expenditures, and documented David's abuse of company resources. "When I saw the charges for jewelry vacations and an apartment lease, I hired a private investigator," she said. "The report arrived yesterday." The private investigator had documented not just the affair, but the systematic embezzlement and employee fraud. Margaret's evidence combined with mine would create an overwhelming case. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. "Because my father believed in treating employees fairly," Margaret said firmly. "David has betrayed everything my family built, and because what they did to you is unforgivable." She handed me a business card. "I've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. As majority shareholder, I'm removing David from his position and authorizing full cooperation with law enforcement." The next morning brought a flurry of activity. FBI agents arrived at Thompson and Associates at 9 a.m. executing search warrants for financial records and computer systems. Rebecca accompanied me to the office to serve restraining orders and civil lawsuit papers. Sarah and David were arrested in the company lobby, their faces pale with shock as handcuffs clicked around their wrists. Employees gathered at windows and doorways watching their reign of terror end in the most public way possible. Chandra Williams. The lead FBI agent said, "We'll need your full testimony, but I wanted you to know your evidence made this case airtight." Margaret Thompson stood with the federal agents, her authority as majority shareholder clear to everyone present. "Effective immediately, Sarah Patterson and David Thompson are terminated for cause. Their benefits and severance packages are forfeit." Marcus approached me as the arrested pair was led away. "I should have spoken up sooner," he said, guilt heavy in his voice. "You spoke up when it mattered," I replied. "That took courage." Other employees came forward throughout the day, sharing their own experiences of stolen work and suspicious terminations. Jennifer arrived from her new job to provide testimony and support other victims. The local business news picked up the story by afternoon. "Advertising agency executives arrested for embezzlement and employee fraud." My name appeared as the whistleblower who exposed the scheme. That evening, Emma and I ate dinner at Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, surrounded by the warmth and safety of genuine community. Emma was excited about the news coverage, proud that her mother had done something important. "You stopped bad people," she said seriously, "like a superhero." "Not a superhero," I corrected gently. "Just someone who decided to fight back when something was wrong." Rebecca called with updates. Sarah and David had been denied bail due to flight risk and witness intimidation charges. Their bank accounts were frozen, their assets seized for restitution purposes. "The federal prosecutor wants to meet with you tomorrow," Rebecca said. They're considering additional charges based on evidence from other companies. As I tucked Emma into bed, she asked, "Mommy, will the bad people try to hurt us again?" "No, sweetheart," I said with absolute certainty. "They can't hurt anyone anymore." For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Justice was unfolding exactly as it should, and my daughter was safe. The bonus they stole had led to their complete downfall, proving that sometimes the worst betrayals become the foundation for the most complete victories. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of our new apartment, sunlight streaming through clean windows as I prepared breakfast for Emma. The space was twice the size of our old place, with a real dining room and Emma's own art corner where she could create without worrying about making noise for neighbors. The settlement check had arrived 3 weeks ago, $85,000, covering stolen bonuses, legal fees, punitive damages, and pain and suffering. Sarah Patterson had been sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, plus full restitution to all victims. David Thompson faced 5 years for his leadership role in the conspiracy, and Thompson and Associates had been dissolved, its assets distributed among the defrauded employees. Emma emerged from her bedroom wearing her new school uniform, her hair in neat braids. She attended Cedar Grove Academy, now a private school with small classes and an art program that nurtured her creative talents. "Mommy, will you come to my presentation today?" she asked, adjusting her backpack straps. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, kissing the top of her head. Emma's class was presenting projects about personal heroes. She had chosen to write about me, which filled my heart with pride and humility. Her 8-year-old perspective on courage and standing up for what's right had become clearer and more confident since our ordeal. My freelance marketing consultancy had grown beyond my wildest expectations. The publicity from exposing the Thompson and Associates fraud had established my reputation for integrity and skill. Clients sought me out specifically because they knew I couldn't be bought intimidated or corrupted. Jennifer Walsh had become my business partner, bringing her expertise and shared understanding of corporate fraud recovery. Together, we had built Williams Walsh Marketing, specializing in ethical business practices and employee-focused campaign development. The phone rang as I packed Emma's lunch. Rebecca Walsh, though the shared last name with Jennifer was purely coincidental. "The Henderson Hotel's case goes to trial next week," Rebecca informed me. "They want you to testify about the stolen campaign work." "Of course," I said. This would be my 4th time serving as an expert witness in employment fraud cases. The experience was emotionally challenging but necessary to prevent other families from suffering what we had endured. My mother's health had improved dramatically once her medical treatment was properly funded. She had moved to an apartment 10 minutes away, close enough to help with Emma, but independent enough to maintain her dignity. The 3 generations of women in our family had grown closer through surviving the crisis together. "Chandra," Rebecca continued, "I wanted to discuss something personal with you. Over the months of working together, Rebecca and I had developed a connection that extended beyond our professional relationship. She was brilliant, principled, and shared my commitment to protecting vulnerable people from powerful abusers. Our first official date was scheduled for Saturday evening. "What's on your mind?" I asked. "I've been offered a position heading the new federal task force on corporate employee fraud," she said. "Based in Washington. It would mean relocating." The news hit me unexpectedly hard. Rebecca had become not just my attorney, but a trusted friend and potential romantic partner. Her career advancement was well-deserved, but the timing felt complicated. "That's an incredible opportunity," I said genuinely. "You've earned it. I wanted you to know first because your case inspired the task force creation. Your courage in fighting back against people who seemed untouchable convinced federal prosecutors that employee fraud needs specialized attention." Emma called from the living room, ready to leave for school. I gathered my keys and purse while processing Rebecca's news. The drive to Cedar Grove Academy took us through neighborhoods I had only dreamed of affording 6 months ago. Emma chattered about her presentation, her friends, her excitement about summer art camp. Her resilience and optimism reminded me daily why the fight had been worth every moment of fear and uncertainty. At school, I watched Emma present her hero project to classmates and parents. She spoke confidently about courage, justice, and the importance of protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Her understanding of complex moral concepts amazed me. My mom didn't just get our money back, she concluded. She stopped bad people from hurting other families too. Heroes don't just save themselves, they save everyone. The audience applauded warmly, but I felt tears gathering in my eyes. Emma had learned lessons about integrity and responsibility that would shape her entire life. The trauma of our financial crisis had been transformed into wisdom about fairness and courage. After school, we visited the office I shared with Jennifer. Williams Walsh Marketing occupied a restored historic building downtown with exposed brick walls and large windows that filled the space with natural light. Emma had her own small desk where she worked on homework while I finished client projects. "How did the presentation go?" Jennifer asked when we arrived. "She was amazing," I said, watching Emma settle at her desk with coloring books and homework. Jennifer had become like family to us. Her own recovery from Sarah Patterson's sabotage had been slower than mine, but she was thriving now. The validation of seeing our abuser in prison had helped heal psychological wounds that extended far beyond financial damage. "The Morrison campaign is ahead of schedule," Jennifer reported. "And I have 3 new client inquiries from the Washington Post article about our success." Media coverage of our case had attracted attention from businesses wanting to work with consultants who prioritized ethical practices over profit margins. Our client base included small businesses, nonprofits, and even Fortune 500 companies seeking authentic marketing approaches. That evening, Rebecca called with more details about the task force position. The job would involve traveling to corporate fraud scenes, coordinating with local prosecutors, and developing federal guidelines for employee protection, she explained. "It's exactly the kind of work I've always wanted to do." "You should take it," I said without hesitation. "What about us?" she asked quietly. The question hung in the air while I considered possibilities. Long-distance relationships were challenging, but Rebecca's career advancement would help protect countless workers from the abuse we had experienced. "Maybe us includes new adventures," I said finally. "Emma and I could visit Washington. You could consult on our most complex cases remotely." We talked for another hour about practical considerations and emotional hopes. The relationship was still new, but our shared values and mutual respect provided a strong foundation for whatever the future might bring. Later, as Emma and I walked through our neighborhood park, she asked the question that had been building in her mind all day. "Mommy, why didn't the bad people just do their jobs right instead of stealing?" Her innocent question cut to the heart of everything. Why do people choose corruption over honest work? Why do they hurt others for personal gain? How do we protect ourselves and our children from those who abuse power? "Some people think taking shortcuts is easier than working hard," I explained. "They don't understand that cheating always catches up with you eventually." "But you worked hard and still got in trouble," Emma pointed out with 8-year-old logic. "That's true," I acknowledged. "Sometimes bad things happen even when we do everything right. But the important thing is fighting back when something unfair happens." We sat on a park bench while Emma fed ducks with breadcrumbs from her lunch. The evening air was warm with spring promise, and families around us enjoyed the peaceful setting. "Emma, what did you learn from everything that happened to us?" She considered the question seriously, her young face thoughtful. "I learned that when powerful people are mean to regular people, sometimes the regular people can win if they're brave enough." "What else?" "I learned that having enough money is important, but being honest is more important." Her wisdom humbled me. At 8 years old, she understood principles that many adults never grasp. "And I learned that even when scary things happen, we can get through them together," she added, leaning against my shoulder. As we walked home, I reflected on the transformation our lives had undergone. The Christmas morning devastation that had seemed like the end of everything had actually been the beginning of discovering strength I never knew I possessed. Fighting back against Sarah Patterson and David Thompson hadn't just recovered stolen money. It had revealed capabilities I never imagined connected me with people who shared my values and taught my daughter that integrity matters more than security. Emma's respect for my courage meant more than any financial settlement. She had learned that sometimes doing the right thing requires risking everything, but that the alternative, accepting injustice, damages the soul in ways money cannot repair. The bonus they stole had been meant to save our Christmas. Instead, losing it had saved our futures by forcing me to become the person I was meant to be, someone who wouldn't compromise principles for comfort, who would protect others even at personal cost, who would teach her daughter that courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. Today, Emma knows her mother didn't just survive betrayal. She transformed it into a foundation for building something better than what was taken away. The courage to demand what was right hadn't just changed our circumstances, it had changed who we were as people. Sometimes the worst betrayals become doorways to discovering our true strength and purpose. When I thought losing that Christmas bonus would destroy my family's future, I couldn't imagine it would actually save us from a life of accepting injustice. Fighting back didn't just recover stolen money, it revealed capabilities I never knew I possessed and connected me with people who shared my values. The courage to demand what was right transformed not just my career, but my daughter's understanding that integrity matters more than security. Today, Emma knows her mother didn't just survive betrayal, she turned it into a foundation for building something better than what was taken away. Have you ever faced a moment where standing up for what's right felt impossible, but staying silent felt worse? I'd love to hear about times when you or someone you know found the courage to fight injustice, even when the odds seemed overwhelming. Your stories of resilience and determination inspire others who might be facing their own battles against unfairness. Please like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about finding strength in difficult times, and share it with anyone who needs a reminder that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary justice when they refuse to accept being treated unfairly. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the most beautiful transformations. Here's to finding courage when we need it most, and to building lives based on integrity rather than compromise.